Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Tracy Alexander. And coming up in today's newscast, Israel gets schooled on loosening restrictions as thousands of students and staff are sent home amidst a surge in coronavirus infections. Satisfying all sides, Israel's Prime Minister in a diplomatic frenzy ahead of that annexation vote next month. And amputee children are given a helping hand thanks to an Israeli initiative. Well, the numbers are staggering. 10,000 students and staff are already back in quarantine as the COVID-19 pandemic hits Israel's education system. More than 30 schools are now closed, and after 2,000 people were sent home from just one institution, it's prompted a health ministry probe into the situation. This amidst fears the country's leader could be the next to re-enter isolation. Take a look. It could be back to quarantine for leading Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Officials confirming that a worker in his office has tested positive for coronavirus. Exactly who the infected person came in contact with is now being investigated. But it is known that just ahead of this Saturday's press conference, the Premier was in the same room as the worker. If Netanyahu was exposed, this would be his third time entering quarantine since the start of the pandemic. The first time in March, after an aide was infected, and the second in April, when then Health Minister Yaakov Litzman came down with the virus. Meantime, 98 new coronavirus infections have been recorded in the past 24 hours alone, this bringing the active infection numbers back to over 2,000, the death toll holding at 285. Education centres are the current hotspots for infections. More than 10,000 students and staff from more than 30 schools have been sent back into quarantine. New Education Minister Yoav Gallant ordering every school with active cases to close immediately. Another warning from the Health Ministry that infection numbers are likely far higher than what's on record. After the release of special blood test results in Israel, the serological tests allow scientists to identify who not only have the virus, but also had the virus. And take a look at the results. Some 200,000 Israelis have likely already been infected, over 2.5% of the population. That's nearly 12 times the number confirmed by the government. Now, amidst fears of a second COVID-19 outbreak, the Israeli government has approved a massive new stimulus package for the tourism sector. An aid package of some $85 million will be dished out in a bid to help hotels reopen and function without the income they normally receive from foreign visitors. Now, it doesn't seem the airways will reopen to Israel anytime soon, and since the tourism industry employs some 80,000 people, well, the focus is now on domestic patronage. The aid package, announced by Israel's tourism and finance ministers, calls on hotels to lower their prices to allow Israelis to travel more freely while prohibited from flying abroad. Now, with an economy battered by the coronavirus, Israel's new environmental protection minister is looking to see the opportunity in the chaos. Gila Gamliel is proposing the country looks at investing in sustainable projects to reduce greenhouse gases and pollution, saying the country should ensure it's prepared for potential future crises within the environment.
גיבשנו גם מתווה יציאה ממשבר הקורונה להשקעה לטווח ארוך בסביבה שלנו, שתחזק את החוסן הכלכלי והחברתי של אזרחי ישראל, בכלכלה מעגלית, בהתמודדות עם משבר האקלים, בטכנולוגיות קלינטק, בהפחתת זיהום האוויר מהתחבורה ועוד ועוד. העבודה עוד רבה.
Well, the Environment Ministry might be a few steps behind one Israeli-American dentist come designer who has fused his profession and passion together during the coronavirus lockdown to find a sustainable solution to the disposable face mask. Now, with all this extra plastic gloves and disposable materials people were starting to stock up on, Ariel Cohen decided to make use of disused shopping bags rather than creating more waste. And unexpectedly, after posting a few of his designs on Instagram, Instagram, Ariel began to receive requests from others hoping to support his mission. And Ariel joins me here in studio to tell us more. Ariel, an incredible initiative. I can see some examples that you brought with us today.
Thank you.
Tell me a bit about it.
So it's just this thing, you know, I have been a dentist for 7-8 years now. And I've always been interested in design. And I just, last year I started studying in Shankar, studying fashion and design. And all of a sudden I was stuck in the house. I needed a mask and I was so tired of wearing the mask at work every day and the same mask and throwing them out and disposable. Right. And it was the first time we had this segment and I thought, I gotta go to the grocery store. What am I gonna wear? And I just found a mask and I thought, wow, this is the perfect material to make it into an actual mask. And I found some things. I put some wires to bend the nose, added a filter to some of them using a top from a cola cap. So it was just really an interesting project. And then the ideas of just the way that we need to kind of reuse to re-better ourselves and all this waste. Within the whole time, I never bought one box of disposable masks.
That's incredible and so
I can throw
important.
them in the wash and put them on, and my friends, you know, it's...
Because it was certainly disturbing me every time you had to go inside any kind of store. You would be given, actually, plastic gloves or a mask if you didn't have one. And I was just thinking about how much waste and how much extra plastic we were throwing into the environment. But I think what's really special is because you come from a medical background, you know what's needed. So, I mean, are these medical grade?
Well, not only what's needed, but actually what's comfortable. I mean, I see people on the street and they put the mask, they don't bend the nose, it's, you know, flapping in the wind. And for me, it was all about getting something that, you know, didn't sit on the ears also, because the ears, I find...
show us how it works. Oh, wow, and you can even extend it to your...
So this one has a different snap, where I put it in the back and I can snap it off like that.
And I also want to see, give me one of those, because I can see that there's a little bottle opener on the one side.
Yeah, so this one has a bottle opener.
Okay, so what does this do?
Filter. So that's how I made an actual filter. And because, you know, at one point it was like kind of hard to breathe. So I said, you know what, let me take the top of a filter and I cut a hole through the soda and I was able to make, you know, a filtration system using the actual material, because the actual fabric of these bags is polyester that's actually worn for PPE and these type of, you know, filtering non-woven masks.
How do I look, Ariel?
You look great, but I have a better one for you.
Okay, show me.
I think this one will much better match your look
thank
today.
you.
As well as,
and what's amazing as well
is this was made from a Lululemon bag.
Okay, that's a yoga brand, so that certainly suits my taste. And tell me a bit more as well, because once you started to post these online, you started starting to get some other requests, and you started to make not only
people started asking me, and so then I decided for myself, you know, when I'm at work, I need stuff, so I made myself a nice hat that you can see like in the pictures with the surgical scrub, and then I put the scrubs on top, and I actually had just finished making this jacket, which I think is really cool. And something that's really interesting to see, I don't know if they could do, is I kind of tried to, where's the
Hold it up, I think we can hold it up, that might look better.
So it's to look like, you know, a motorcycle jacket, and has a front that opens up. And really the cool part is you can actually see, when you flip it inside, because it's kind of reversible, that it's all made, if you can get in there.
And are you wearing these now at work?
Yeah, I want to start thinking about how I can wear them, you know.
That's amazing.
And they're going to be washable. So, you know, the cool thing is that it's something that's made from the old bags, and you see it, but it's functional. It's something.
Totally.
And how many people are hoarding these bags at home?
100%.
You know, you put them in the thing. I don't want to throw them out. Do I want to keep it?
So now I suppose you're going to start getting a lot of deliveries to your house, because people can start to order them. You can custom make them, and we're seeing a whole revolution to the medical garb industry.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's a great thing.
Ariel, kol hakavod, well done. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
And I want you to pick a mask. Take one.
I will take the Lululemon one. Thank you very much. There you go.
Be protected.
Thank you so much, Ariel. You're the best. All right, well, moving on now. Jewish settlement leaders are the latest now to meet with Israeli Prime Minister, who is looking to satisfy all sides as the date crawls closer to when the government will vote on a partial annexation of Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank. The Yesha Council leaders have been protesting against the US administration's peace plan, rejecting the prospect of Palestinian statehood. Now, Netanyahu will be attending this meeting with updates after his latest conversation with the peace plan's architect. Aaron Porras has more.
A military boost is ordered across Israel in preparation for potential Palestinian unrest ahead of July 1st. As leading Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu counts the days before that vote on a proposal to annex portions of Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank. Defense Minister Benny Gantz ordering Israel's defense forces to step up preparations amidst a recent wave of terror incidents.
נעשה את הכל להפעיל את הכוח במידה הנדרשת מתוך כוונה לצמצם ככל האפשר את הנפגעים, אבל נהיה כמובן חייבים לשמר את רמת הביטחון גם בעונה שכזאת. סך הכל, המדינה לדעתי יכולה וצריכה לדעת להתמודד עם תקופת אי-יציבות שכזו ונתקדם קדימה.
That's when the government will decide whether to extend Israeli sovereignty to settlements and the Jordan Valley, a 30% portion of the area. The fast-approaching date prompting a flurry of diplomacy, with top U.S. officials reportedly holding separate conference calls with both Netanyahu and Gantz overnight. Netanyahu, for his part, speaking with Jared Kushner, who played a key role in drafting President Donald Trump's Middle East Peace to Prosperity plan, mulling the best approach. A busy phone line with the White House envoy on Israeli-Palestinian peace and both the U.S. ambassador to Israel and Israel's envoy to the U.S. also on the call. And according to Israeli news channel 13, due to the current domestic unrest over the police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis last week and the economic impact of COVID-19, the Americans are wanting to downplay enthusiasm for an imminent move. Gantz, speaking with U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman Monday, the blue and white leader's stance, though, is less clear than Netanyahu's. Gantz has endorsed the U.S. plan, but believes annexation should be a coordinated effort with relevant players, like the Palestinians and Jordan. The coalition deal between the two leaders means that as long as Netanyahu can secure a parliamentary majority, the prime minister has the right to proceed even without Gantz's support.
And Aaron Porras joins me in studio with more. Aaron, of course, we know that Netanyahu is today meeting with the settler leaders. What will they be wanting to hear from Netanyahu today?
Well, I think more than anything, first of all, they're very happy to have this meeting finally because they've been waiting to hear any details about this. That's really been their primary concern since all of this started was, you know, just put us in the loop because you're talking about annexing or extending sovereignty, but what does that mean? How does that relate to us and to our daily lives? So first of all, they have a number of concerns as well. You have certain, like in Yamina party, saying Palestinian statehood to begin with is a big issue for a lot of these settler leaders. Because and under the Trump deal,
right? If we're talking only about 30% of this area of Judea and Samaria,
and that's actually another one of their concerns is that originally we were talking about 60% of Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley, and now it's down to 30. So that's another one of their concerns. They also don't want the Palestinian Authority, even if they do have a state, they don't want them to have anything more than administrative control. They don't want them to have full sovereignty. They want them to have maybe, without security control.
Right, just because of the way that, of course, this is laid out. We're not talking about 30% and 70%. This is all kind of within each other. So they're all kind of surrounded with the different communities around each other, which is part of what their concern is. But then there are other concerns that we're hearing because Netanyahu is really trying to satisfy many sides here. So what other kind of issues could arise should Israel move forward with this move unilaterally?
Well, again, we're talking about, first of all, what does that even mean, that move? What's the timetable for that? What exactly happens on July 1st? Is it the vote? Is it the beginning of annexations? And if it is the beginning of annexations, is it piecemeal or is it all at once? So a lot of that, they're talking about coordination, and that's missing. Now, apart from that, we're also talking about security concerns.
Right.
If we annex, the border is much, much bigger. So how do we secure that? It's going to take a lot more money, more soldiers, more presence. We're also talking about the Palestinians rejecting it out of hand because they're not at the table, but they're a part of that deal.
Certainly. Well, less than a month until we see what happens. We are expecting that there will be a majority in the Knesset, in the Israeli parliament. So we'll all wait and see what becomes of that. Aaron, thank you for that insight.
Thank you.
Well, briefly, an arrest today of an Israeli soldier over suspected threats against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The 21-year-old is suspected of threatening death to the Premier on his Facebook page, alarmingly making an apparent hint to Yitzhak Rabin, Israel's ex-Prime Minister who was assassinated by a far-right extremist some 15 years ago. Now, it comes after Netanyahu said he filed a lawsuit against a man who threatened to murder him and his family. Meantime, members of Israel's ultra-Orthodox Naturei Karta and Satmar Hasidic community showing their support to the family of Iyad Halak, the Arab-Israeli man shot dead by police in Jerusalem this past weekend. In this video posted online today, the men are seen with Palestinian flags around their neck, reciting a prayer for the mourners, which is then being translated from Hebrew to Arabic.
של הפלסטינאים על פלסטינה כולה.
ללפלסטינים على أرض فلسطين كاملة.
ואל-קודס בירתה.
وعاصمتها القدس.
ונוכל לחיות תחת שלטון הפלסטינאים בשלום ובאחווה.
ونستطيع وبحكي عن نفسهم جماعتهم إنه يعيشوا تحت سلطة فلسطين.
כמו שחיינו בשלום
كما عشنا بسلام
עם אחינו הפלסטינאים
مع إخوتنا الفلسطينيين
לפני שנוסדה המפלצת הציונית.
Now, that comes a day after Israel's Defence Minister Benny Gantz apologised for the incident, which is under investigation, saying, quote, "We share in the family's grief." Well, you'll remember last week we spoke with the sister of an Israeli woman who was murdered last year, allegedly by her husband. Lily Ben-Ami, in the wake of her sister Michal Seller's death, one of thousands of women taking to the streets of Tel Aviv, demanding more be done to stamp out domestic violence.
A peaceful protest in Tel Aviv, in contrast to the issue they're shouting about. Thousands rallying along the beachfront calling for government action to end violence against women. Organizers say most of the $71 million approved 3 years ago for national programs against domestic violence have not yet reached relevant hands.
71 נשים נרצחו מאז אושר אותו תקציב. ושמים סוף לאלימות.
11 women have been killed in Israel since the start of the year, with a rash of murders over the past 2-month coronavirus lockdown period.
Now, this is an incredible story. Amputee children across Israel, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, Syria and Brazil are being given a helping hand thanks to innovative printing technology and scientists from the Technion Israel Institute of Technology. They've created prosthetic limbs and they're giving them for free to children in need. Now, the solution not only aids a child's physical ability, but it's an enormous confidence boost. Here's a bit about the initiative. Take a look.
These days, at least in Israel, children don't get a prosthetic from the government. Even adults can't afford a bionic hand. They can only get only aesthetic hands that don't have any functionality. There are some daily activities that this hand really helps with. They can hold two things simultaneously, they can catch a ball, and they can do other things that weren't able to do before.
Now, the reason I love my job is to be able to introduce people like this next guest. Joining me from his lab at the Technion Israel Institute of Technology is Professor Alon Wolf. Professor, great to have you with us. An incredible venture, because we know that prosthetic arms and hands, they don't come cheap. So how did this initiative come to be?
The initiative came to be about 5 years ago, when I visited in the United States, another activity that we lead here in the Technion called First Robotics. And I met a gentleman called John Scholl, who runs an organization in the US when they started to print or design such hands. And then after discussing this with him, we decided to bring the project here to Israel and especially to the Technion, and use the manpower that we have here, the students, the engineers, the scientists, to further develop those hands and make them available to children all over the world.
And I understand you're there with one of your students. Tell us a bit about what we can see on the table over there.
What you could see here, by the way, this is Yair, my PhD student. He's one of the leaders of the project, together with Shanit. You see different samples or models of hands. Some are more simple, like this simple mechanic hand, which is purely mechanics. It's activated by the wrist of the child. This is in a case of where the amputation is just above the fingers. But some cases, the amputation of the child is behind the wrist or even below the elbow, even above the elbow. And there, in these cases, we have to develop something which is more sophisticated, more robotic, more mechatronics, like the device that Yair is now demonstrating to you. So this is a robotic hand. Yair, maybe you want to explain a little bit.
Yeah, so we try to create these devices. Everything is, by the way, based on 3D printers and low-cost hardware. We try to implement, sophisticated algorithm and design processes in behind the hardware. But the hardware is cheap and easily available, anywhere in the world. And we try to make this hand as easy to use for the child as possible. So, we have motors integrated in and feedback that goes back to the user so he can know, how the hand is grasping and how it's working.
That's amazing. And I'd like you to maybe bring it a little bit closer to the camera so we can have a better look at it. Because I understand that, while the children have to come into the lab, some of them to actually have it fitted to their hands, other people don't. They can print it from their home. How does that work?
Well, we share all our designs on the web, so you can actually log into our website and download all our designs, the codes, and the instructions. Just like IKEA, you go and you produce it yourself.
Unbelievable. And I understand that there are some remarkable stories about people that you have helped. Tell us about one of the children you helped that requested an extra long arm and what he wanted it for.
We have all kind of unique requests, and I think one of the main benefits of this hand is that the child gets to design it himself. You can put any logo you want on it. So we have an Iron Man hand and different. So here you see Minnie Mouse, and this is per the request of the child. You can choose his color, the design, and also very unique requests that we never thought they would want. They asked for. We had a child that asked for 6 fingers, so he has a hand with 2 thumbs, and a child that asked for a very long arm because it wants to reach things on higher shelves, that other kids can't. So these hands can give them ability to create, to do things that they can't do with a regular hand.
Unbelievable. Well, you gentlemen are certainly changing the world, and we really appreciate you sharing that initiative with us. Professor Wolf and Yair, thank you for that insight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, how private are you? In today's high-tech world, many are wondering how much control do we even have over our own privacy? Well, an amazing Israeli startup is now looking to put some power back into your hands. Aaron Porras has the story.
We see it all the time in our favorite futuristic thrillers. Biometric tech like facial recognition abused by some corporation or government authority. Well, that future may be closer than we think. So it's a good thing that DID has your back. Using its incredible AI technology, photos and videos are replaced with slightly altered computer-generated images. Just different enough so that facial recognition software fails to identify you, but not altered enough to affect analytics that companies commercially use. The increasing use of facial recognition prompting regulators and human rights advocates to push for tighter protections over personally identifiable information, or PII. Such information, including your face, age, gender, and ethnicity, are considered sensitive personal data. Yet it's used every day, sometimes without our consent. Retailers use it to better market to us, and governments use it to track us or even give us ratings, like in China. But by using DID's so-called smart anonymization solutions, companies can monetize publicly recorded imagery while complying with international restrictions such as HIPAA and the EU's GDPR.
Unbelievable. Well, let's now take a look at the weather forecast, something natural, not technology. Sunny skies across most of the country from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv and Eilat. In the Holy City, we'll see a low of 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, that's 12 degrees Celsius. But tomorrow, the sun is out with a high of 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius. And briefly, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. Another day, another dog. That's what I say about this segment. And we're seeing the natural world mixed with technology, something that we're seeing all throughout today's broadcast. Unbelievable. Now, before we go, a special request from one of our viewers who had wanted to bring his mother Chlorine to Israel for her 74th birthday, but due to the coronavirus, the trip, like for many others wanting to visit the Holy Land, well, it won't be happening. Instead, Chlorine, on behalf of your children who are also watching with you tonight, we'd like to send a special happy birthday to you from us here at ILTV. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.49 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Tracy Alexander, and thank you so much for watching.